All right, gang, scholars are beginning to recognize that nationalist populists are ready to storm the upcoming EU elections, all but guaranteeing the end of the globalist vision for the EU. That's what we'll be talking about on today's video. Before we do, a huge shout out to all of our first-time viewers. I post 2 videos a day analyzing current events in light of some really awesome conservative trends. So if you would, please smack that bell and subscribe button. We are in the final countdown to 100,000 subscribers, and be an absolute privilege to have you as one of them. All right, so I am happy, I'm ecstatic to report that more and more scholars are now coming to the conclusion that nationalist populism is currently poised to completely overwhelm Brussels in the upcoming European parliamentary elections. If you don't know, 6 months from now, citizens across the entire continent will vote to choose who will represent them in the European Parliament. And no matter how confident they may try to look, on the outside, make no mistake, the elites in Brussels are bracing for the single strongest populist backlash ever seen in modern history. And I'm referencing in particular a very good article by Matthew Goodwin, professor of politics over at the University of Kent in the UK. He's convinced that we're about to see nothing short of this just a massive political earthquake throughout the Eurozone. What Goodwin notices is that the last European parliamentary election back in 2014 took place within a similar context to where we are today. Europeans were generally concerned about the economy, about immigration, and in such a context, the Eurosceptic, populist, and nationalist parties were so often referred to as the far-right parties, right? They won a record number of seats in that election. They won 52 seats in the European Parliament, which increased dramatically from their results in 2009 when the nationalist populist right won 15 seats. I think the clear lesson here is do not despise small beginnings. It's amazing what can happen in just a few years' time. The big winners were, of course, Marine Le Pen's National Front, now the National Rally in France, Nigel Farage's UKIP, the UK Independence Party, and the Danish People's Party, each of which won outright their respective election. Now, what's so interesting here is that in 2014, the corporate globalist media was in utter shock over this election result. The New York Times actually came out and said that the very institutions and assumptions that have been at the heart of Europe's post-World War II order really were at risk. They were shocked by the results of 2014. But here's another shocker. In 2019, these nationalist populist parties are expected to do even better. What Goodwin notices, and I think he's absolutely right here, what he notices is that just 5 years ago, just 5 years ago, the nationalist populist right was really more or less on the political fringes. I mean, Northern League in Italy wasn't anything more than a small peripheral party. The AfD in Germany and Vox in Spain didn't even exist. Now, 5 years later, the nationalist populist right is becoming the norm, the new consensus throughout the continent. We've had record results for the Danish People's Party, record results for Poland's Law and Justice Party, a landslide victory for the Austrian Freedom Party together with the People's Party, a second-place finish for Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, and that only after the incumbent prime minister stole his anti-immigration platform. Marine Le Pen had her best showing ever in their presidential elections in France. Viktor Orban of Hungary's Fidesz party, they won a supermajority. The AfD stormed into the German parliament. The Sweden Democrats saw their best election ever. The Nationalist Populists won a massive victory in the Czech Republic, in Slovenia, in Latvia, in Estonia. The Vox party has just stormed into the Spanish parliament, thank you very much, due to the elections in Andalusia. And of course, in many respects, the kings of them all, the Brexit vote in June of 2016 and the victory of Matteo Salvini's Italian League together with the Populists. 5-star. As Goodwin notes, nationalist populism simply can no longer be written off as some fluke or some temporary political phase or overreaction by a hypersensitive European population to financial concerns. With over 63 Islamic terrorist attacks across Europe and North America, with 424 dead, 2,000 injured, the vast majority of Europeans are far more concerned about immigration and its disastrous effects on their safety as well as their respective national cultures. And that has placed an economy a distant third in Europeans' concerns. Okay, they want their leaders to tackle terrorism and radicalization, as well as strengthening their borders. In fact, the European Commission's own data revealed that immigration dominated the list of concerns in 22 of the 27 EU countries that will vote in the elections. And this was for the fourth year in a row. In another recent study, 50% of Europeans disagreed with the statement, "My voice counts in the EU." For the Italians, that number jumped to over 66%. And on top of all this, that things couldn't possibly get worse, Goodwin points to the fact that the center-left has all but completely collapsed within Europe. Again, we've detailed this in a number of videos. Among the 946 European districts that held elections in 2017, the center-left suffered losses in an astonishing 94% of those districts. 94% of European districts voted against the center-left in a single year alone. That's how bad it is for the center-left in Europe right now. And again, the New York Times recognized that in many places in Europe, the center-left has actually gone extinct. It just no longer exists. And Goodwin further notes that anyone who's trying to find solace that this nationalist populism is just one last hurrah for a bunch of, old white European men who are going to soon die out, well, they're sorely mistaken. Every study conducted demonstrates that the vast majority of those voting for the Alternative for Germany, Marine Le Pen, and the Austrian Freedom Party, they were all, well, what do you know, under the age of 40. We're on the verge of a massive political earthquake in May of 2019. The European parliamentary elections may indeed see the single greatest nationalist populist awakening in the modern era, and with it, the end of the globalist vision for the EU. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our new online merchandise selection where you can get gear and apparel celebrating all things nationalist and populist, and a special Christmas time discount of 15% off all items by entering the promotion code below. And if you would, please click either on our Patreon, Subscribe Star, or PayPal links below and become a supporter of this channel. As you know, we are periodically demonetized by YouTube, and we could really use your help so we can continue to analyze current events in light of awesome conservative trends so that you can personally and professionally flourish. God bless.